as the organization and everyone else in Boston. You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
When you were last year, and maybe not last year, a couple of times ago, you talked to the media about why you wanted to remain in Boston, why you said that before the season. Since then, there's been reports about uncertainty surrounding that commitment. Has anything wavered in your mind?
I mean, well, at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I feel is best for my career. And, that's just where it stands. And my focus this season is winning a championship with the Boston Celtics. Obviously we had goals coming into the season, and primary goal is to win a championship. So that's where my focus is.
Has your mindset shifted, though, in regards to re-signing with Boston, like the announcement?
Ask me July 1st.
Alright, Detective Dom is on the case because I'm real suspicious right now. I'm so suspicious, in fact, I quit what I was in the middle of doing just to come make this video. I'm in the middle of trying to prepare a big announcement on the other channel, about to hit 250k, so I'm doing something big. But while I'm trying to do that, while I'm trying to get my thoughts together, Twitter just sets on absolute fire because there's this whole thing about Kyrie Irving in the interview he did that you just saw at the beginning of the video. And while I will definitely admit it's not as bad as the headlines on Twitter made it sound, I had some people trying to convince me that this is a non-story. Had a couple of people tweeting me saying, oh, this is nothing, the media is reaching for a story. And look, okay, again, I agree on one side. The headlines were definitely sensationalist a little bit, maybe even a tiny bit inaccurate. But at best, the clip you saw, the first one you saw, which was in October, and the one you just saw from which is from today, at best, those are two different answers, and at best, Kyrie has definitely shifted from where he was back in October. Those are just facts. From watching those two videos, those are just facts. So you can call the headline sensationalist, but you cannot call this a non-story, and you cannot, there's no way to say that Kyrie is now not in the middle of the trade deadline madness, and that there aren't serious questions about what's going to happen in July, or even what Danny Ainge might be thinking right now. So he said what he said in October, and I always looked at that a little bit funny, just a little bit, because an entire year passes, you don't know, people change. But in this particular case, the Celtics have had issues this year. They're not nearly as good as they're supposed to be. Nobody would be surprised if they made the finals, but they've still disappointed a bit. There was that saga just about two and a half weeks ago, where he was saying that the team was inexperienced and they didn't know what it took to win. And in the middle of a competitive season, he admits that he called LeBron to apologize because now he understands what he was dealing with. That's a bit of a shitty thing to say to when you're in the middle of a war with your teammates and you're like, yeah, I called my old teammate because these dudes on some bullshit. That's how I saw it. Okay, but wait a minute. So we have the Celtics doing bad this year. We have Kyrie Irving shift from, yes, I'd love to be here for another year, to quit asking me about this because I'm in a different place now. Then yesterday, the New York Knicks took out one of the biggest gambles we've seen in NBA history. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. I'm not exaggerating because Kristaps Porzingis is supposed to be their guy for the next 10 years. He was clearly, on his way to being an MVP candidate before he got injured because it was only his third year and he was beasting the way he was. So they trade that for Dennis Smith Jr. and expiring contracts so that going into this summer, they'll have 2 max salary slots. And so yesterday when I made the trade video, I was naming guys. I was like Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, I was just naming all the guys that are going to be free agents. And I said Kyrie, but I was still kind of, not fully expecting him to be testing the waters this summer. But wait a minute, I could have sworn earlier this year, there was this thing where they were talking about Kyrie possibly going to the Knicks. And then J.R. Smith, I don't remember if he tweeted it or if he commented it to somebody, but J.R. Smith is on record, Kyrie's old teammate, saying, oh yeah, he'd definitely be interested in the Knicks. So there's that. Then there's Kevin Durant earlier this year in Golden State, and he's gone on record saying that he wants a bag. Saying that, there's guys in the league that are not as good as him making a ton of money, and he sacrificed some money to make this Warrior situation happen, so he wants his money this summer. And that's a very interesting comment to make because in Golden State, money is quickly becoming an issue. DeMarcus Cousins has hinted that maybe he might want to stay, maybe he's not just gonna jet. I think Klay Thompson has the least chance of leaving Golden State, but there was a report from Woj not too long ago, just 2 days ago, that if Golden State did not offer him a max, then maybe he would want to go somewhere else. else. And if you know about Klay and Steph, they're really tight, so I just don't really see them breaking that up. I don't see Golden State breaking that up. Whatever, I'm going a different direction. My point is money in Golden State, with Draymond being a free agent next year, and you know everything about how expensive this roster is, and Kevin Durant complicating it by making it clear this time there's no sacrifices. He wants his money. And Kevin Durant also, really for his legacy, if he cares about it, he needs to leave Golden State. He needs to go somewhere and win where he's not with the goddamn super friends. Or not even that, just to not be on this team, you know, that beat him in the conference finals and then he ended up going to them. The next evolution in his career, if he cares about it, is to kind of wipe that clean, or at least do something that would eclipse that. That's a dark saga in his career. Okay, Kyrie's attitude has totally shifted in Boston. Kevin Durant has made no commitments and wants a bag this summer. New York gambles absolutely everything yesterday just to open up 2 max salary spots. I'm getting kind of anxious right now because I'm starting to see a little bit of premeditation here. I don't know, maybe I need a tinfoil hat, but things just got really convenient for New York really fast. And now I'd like to bring up a barbershop talk that went under the radar that I made in December, I think. And it was back when the Celtics were struggling a little bit more than they are now. It might have even been November when I made this. And I was asking if the Celtics would consider trading Kyrie Irving. And I'm talking about before the trade deadline, obviously. I asked that question because at the time when I asked that, it was about Boston underperforming and thinking about how that underperformance might be enough to persuade him to leave. But now we've heard it from his mouth. I'm not saying Boston is going to trade him or even attempt it, but this week is going to be a little bit interesting. I'm interested to hear the news that comes out, because now you have a very non-committal superstar that it would actually be better for you to get something for him before he predictably walks in the summer. Because before it was just about the team underperforming, but then oh yeah, that's the other part I need to add to this. Apparently Anthony Davis is now, he's kind of forcing his way to LA, it seems. It's came out that he sees the Boston Celtics as a rental option. Basically anywhere not named LA, he sees as a rental option. So it kind of seems, whether it's Rich Paul or whether it's him, they're kind of forcing their direction to the Los Angeles Lakers. So before, when the Celtics were underperforming, I was like, well, they would probably just keep Kyrie because they can still persuade him and say, hey, we're trying to go after Anthony Davis, and they can pair them, and then they can try something from there. But now Davis is kind of making his plans clear. I don't see Danny Ainge making a move to trade pieces like Jason Tatum for a guy who only sees you as a rental. I don't even see him taking that risk. That's not a good risk. So with that going further away from the table, and it looking like AD might actually be traded before the deadline, that's the vibe I'm getting at least. Now Danny Ainge has a really important decision in the next, when is the deadline? Like in a week and a half or something? Whenever it is, he's on the clock now. Because of what Kyrie has said, and because of the situation with Anthony Davis this summer, do you potentially let Kyrie Irving leave and bet on what you have now? Bet that Jason Tatum is going to become a star and build around this core that almost made the finals last year in a significantly weaker East, I must add. Do you bet on that, or do you find the best package available for Kyrie Irving now? Because just from the outside looking in, it looks like the Knicks are having Nick Fury's big week. If you don't understand that reference, if you live under a rock, Nick Fury, Marvel, that's when he got all the Avengers together in like a week. Yeah, no, this is Nick Fury's big week. Because at the same time that one superstar seemingly comes off as unhappy, and one may be looking for a different situation after he potentially wins a championship this summer, just maybe you've made one of the biggest moves ever by clearing that cap space. So yeah, what do you do if you're Danny? I'm gonna tell you what I would do. I'm a Celtics fan, and again, I'm on record here. There's no bias here. I actually love Kyrie. I love his game. I loved watching him in Cleveland. He became my favorite player when he came here to Boston. I was so happy to hear that he was going to be traded here, especially because of the situation that Isaiah Thomas was in. But man, right now, his attitude has been kind of toxic toward us this year. He's now said himself, he shifted. I don't know how he meant that, but I know how I'm going to take it. To me, that's a sign. Okay, now let's look at the Eastern Conference. The Sixers just got Jimmy Butler. They're going to be players for a long time, assuming that he doesn't leave. Either way, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, you got to deal with them for a while. The Bucks are up and coming. Giannis is taking that next step, trying to get to the finals this year. Kawhi Leonard potentially re-signs with the Raptors. Potentially they get Anthony Davis in a trade. Eastern Conference is really strong. This is not the conference where Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in their first years or in their earliest years are going to potentially take us to the finals. That's not going to happen again. This isn't just LeBron and, his worst Cleveland roster. This is a different East. Okay, Danny, just knowing that and knowing everything that's happened this week and what Kyrie has said and the way things are starting to point in July, just maybe it might be a good idea to start looking at what you can add to this roster for Kyrie. Now, I do have to interject here. That's a big risk, because assuming that Kyrie has his eyes set somewhere, he's going to start treating other places like a rental. And it's even worse than AD's rental, because Kyrie's rental would be from February to the end of this season, whatever that may be for whatever team. So if those trade talks do open, it's going to get out because that's how the NBA works. And then Kyrie is going to know that he's been put on the market, which will then 100% mean he's going to leave this summer because he seems like he's already on the edge. So it's a risk, and that's why I'm glad I'm not a general manager, because these are decisions that Danny really has to look at now. But whatever the result ends up being, I know for a fact that Danny is not just sitting in his office right now just messing with his pen and just watching all this go down. I know he's not doing that, and no smart GM would, because you cannot knowingly put yourself in a situation where your free agent has indicated that he might be leaning towards, like, he's 50-50 now. Whatever he was, now he's 50-50. So do you want to potentially get to the finals this year where you will almost certainly lose to the Warriors and then watch Kyrie walk? Or do we start planning for a future without Kyrie right now? Because Kyrie could very well be planning for a future without us. And I laughed when I heard New York earlier this year. But after this week, it's not a joke anymore. These dudes low-key in another 5 months might have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And I know that sounds crazy. We don't give the Knicks any kind of credit. They've had bad management. But just so I can leave you with the idea in your head, so like it might make sense to you, I'm just going to recap it real fast. Kevin Durant looking for a lot of money, possibly looking to do something bigger with his career than winning every year in Golden State, which I'm not even sure that he respects at this point. Kyrie Irving has been tied to the Knicks multiple times this year, says that he doesn't owe anybody shit. Ask me on July 1st. The Knicks yesterday opened up cap space by completely betting their future away. Specifically, 2 max contracts available now. Big market. Even when the Knicks suck, that is still the mecca of basketball and an amazing place to be, especially if the team is competitive. If Kevin Durant is watching what Kyrie is saying, and he has his goals, and Kyrie knows that he can go to a different spot this summer and make a lot of money. And by the way, speaking of goals, what are Kyrie's goals now? Because he once used to say he wanted his own team, he wanted to do his own thing, and then 2 weeks ago he calls LeBron and says, "I'm sorry, I know what you mean," or "I know what you meant, I see how hard it is now in this role." What's changed with Kyrie? Does it matter to him now if he goes to New York and plays with the Kevin Durant type player? Technically it's not his team at that point, but being that he's apologized to LeBron because he sees what it's like, are his goals still the same? Hey, call me crazy, but Danny, if you're out there watching, you've been impulsive before. It might not be a terrible idea to be impulsive right now, that's all I'm saying. And that's all for today. If you somehow followed this channel and didn't know that I had an even bigger one, make sure to go sub to Dom2K, where I do more long form NBA videos. The link is in both the comment section and in the description. Hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.